The lesson.
Oh yeah.
Beezwax 98, and obviously you've been doing the Formula Radio leading up to Beezwax.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the recording process of your first LP. I mean, how did you find that being the first time that you've had to put a big project together?
I think it was good to be with Excel. I guess he'd done stuff before, but he was still at an early stage as well. So he'd just sort of tell me what to do. Like, I didn't know what ad-libs were, backups, I had no idea what I was doing. He'd just say, well, rap it, he sort of guided me through that whole thing. And just being able to go into the studio and make a beat on the spot with him. I've never done that in any other album with anyone else. They give you a beat, you go home, you write to it, you've already got a rap you put to it. But just that process of doing it together. I think I learned a lot from the music. I didn't even know what hats and snares were. It was just music. I don't understand I never made a beat before. But he sort of explained all of that to me as it went.
And so he ended up producing.
He did half of it, and then he actually rang me and said my studio got burged and I've lost all my stuff. But then a week later I spoke to DJ FX and he'd sold it to him, and I think he was going through some mental health things at the time. And so he just sort of, he had to go and do his thing and, sort himself out. So he just said, I've got all your stuff on a DAT, come up on this day and collect it. He had one for me and one for Deadly Sea, I think, and that was it. So I just had whatever was on that DAT. And some of the tracks didn't have the instrumental on them, or one of them was an a cappella, or some of it wasn't finished. So I had these other tracks I needed to get done. And I was on the dole at the time, and they had a grant where if you got a business idea, you can go and get money for it. So I went for the first one, and that didn't happen. Then the second one, I did a 7-week business course. I said, yeah, we like your idea, and they gave me a grant for $2,700. So in that 7 weeks, I got in touch with Prowla, because I thought Prowla made all the beats. It was actually Jase that made a lot of the beats. So I went and saw Jase and sat with them, and they're like, oh yeah, we're sort of busy, we've got Tremsing coming out and Bob Balance and shit. I've got a couple of weeks, we've got to get this shit done, get it mastered. And they just, gave me a few tapes, and I had the raps and put them together, went to Prowla's joint, recorded it, and then he mastered it for me, and that was done just in that little bit of time.
Yeah, wow.
So it was half XL and half Jase, with Prowla sort of doing the recording, and I was always going around his house and hanging out with him. And then once the course finished, there was the nice scheme in the Sydney leg of it, there was no students, and the people running it had taken the money for themselves. So they go, all right, we're shutting this whole thing down. You got 2 weeks to collect your money. So it was like, all right, here's the deadline, dudes. We have to get this done. So they dug deep and they got it done for me. It was just through Wild Child Productions then. So WCA crew, Wild Child Art. But them dudes are like, oh, I don't really like you using the Graph Crew name in the thing. That's why I got changed to Word Burner later on. But no, that was just my own thing. I actually got the CDs pressed. Prowla told me where to go to Dex Audio. Tried to save money by not getting them put together. So I sat there with Stu Backer and put them actually together all ourselves, the plastic, the CD. And then took them down to OB's and dropped them off. And then OB's, it was at that time, so it wasn't OB's. Ollie Bobbitt used to run it, who was another WCA crew guy who started the hip hop shop. So that was before Shaz had it, before Pegs had it. I took 40 CDs in, and the next day you got a phone call and they go, we sold them all, we've got to bring more CDs. I'm like, bullshit. I was like, yeah, wow. So even pressing 500 CDs, so who's going to buy 500? And then within the year or something, they were gone, and had to get some more, and I was amazed by it. I had no idea what I was doing. So I just went and did it. So
then did you promote it on the radio or something in order for people to know to go?
Because I was on the radio, not that I sat there and promoted my own stuff, but people knew me because of that. And I think that the first breakout track was back in 88 Part 1. That's when people go, oh, this is some real shit. This is, but I've never actually released it. But that was the first thing that sort of got my name out there. And then the Ripper got played, and then people started calling up, and people like, we love this shit. I remember this one guy answered, because I didn't have the money to bring it out. This guy, Greg, and he's like, man, I'll get all my mates together. We'll pitch in, we'll pay in advance, we'll get all your money up. It's like, no, dude, it's all right. Still see him. I sent him a free t-shirt the other day. He's a nice bloke. You just think it's a bit weird, but he's actually like one of them real passionate, just real nice guys. He's still around. I always remember that. I had no idea what to do. Excel was just like, this is what you do. You just press the CD and you take it here, you do it there. And luckily at the time, at Revolve around the corner, from which is in Chapel Street. That had just opened. And I had a friend from Eltham Way, Simon, and he knew the girl that was the girl running or organising the gigs. So he goes, I've taken your CD up there and they want you to do a gig at Revolver. And that's when, well, I've never done gigs before, I don't know what's going on. And they sort of just show me what to do, get up there and rap. That was it.
So basically then your first gig ever was at Revolver off the back of that.
There was actually one before, like it was to promote the album, and I got up and I did 3 songs and that was it. I didn't know how many, I've never been to a gig before, I didn't know what to rap. What you meant to do? For the next hour, I was just like, nah, just these 3, we'll put the backups on it and just get up there and rap. I was the support for Deadly Seas. That was like a couple of months before, and then that was my launch, the Beezwax launch. That was like the second proper show I did.
You dropped the album. It's been, received better than what you anticipated. You've then been booked for the gig. That's your album launch. Tell us, I guess, a little bit about, what it felt like now being on a stage, performing to people.
Well, so I'm very anxious. I get very anxious beforehand. So I remember not eating because I couldn't eat dinner. Felt like I was going to vomit the whole time. Just really scared and nervous. My hair was really bad, long hair, little frilly bits coming out the side there. But yeah, once I was up there, it was good. I did mess up a couple of times, but yeah, the excitement of it, like there was a packed house. I'd never rapped to that many people before, and they were shouting the words. And there was a lot of graffiti writers, because back in the day, there wasn't a hip-hop scene, there was a graph scene. And if you went to a hip-hop night, it was all the writers. There wasn't any outsiders. So it was only over time it grew as a hip-hop scene. So back then, they're all your mates, and they're all shouting for you. It was a wonderful thing at that time.
And then do you remember approximately how many people would have been?
I think they said there was 400 in there. I don't think you could even fit that many in there.
Wow.
And we just had a DAT tape. I didn't really know what DAT tape was. Prowla just, we'll just run it off this. That's all right. He DJ'd for me. But Pack and Reason were up there. Because they'd done shows before, like sort of Pack and Reason put me on at the Cherry Tree Hotel. So they got me up to rap. And then I think Bob Balance and Strut and Rob Nat, they were sort of before that. So they were all in the lineup.
Yeah, right. And then, so were there many hip-hop gigs, like Oz hip-hop gigs going on at that time?
Not really, no. You'd have the occasional international. I think Mystic Journeyman came. That was the first time I'd ever been to Revolver. I'd never even heard of them beforehand. We just went, because back then if it was a hip-hop gig you went to, it didn't matter who it was, because there wasn't that many. And I even started promoting all my own shows because there was no competition. And then I think Andrew Montel from Out for Fame, he started organising gigs, and it's like, things might fall on the wrong weekends, whatever. At that point I'd sort of done my little promoting bit anyway, and I was done with it. But in those days there was no one else organising shows. Everyone hassled me to say, can you put us on a gig? So I was just, I remember always calling up, you can have it every week if you want.
On the album I noticed you got Back in 88 Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a reason why you never put Part 1?
Well, Part 1, the a cappella was on one DAT and the instrumental was on another. It was from a live show where it faded up, so it wasn't the proper instrumental. It was only when I was putting the new backburners together that I actually found the two and realised I could put them together. And I was going to put them on the CD as an exclusive track, but then after listening a bit, I thought it sounds a bit dated and it doesn't really suit the rest, so I left it. So it still might come out one day, it is sitting there. But yeah, just Part 2 sounded better, so I never released Part 1. I think Back in 88 Part 2 was definitely one of my favourites. I enjoyed doing Back to Nature with Reason. That was good, having the guest. Gaseous Forms on the end. There's always, when a couple of years after it came out, I'd listen back and go, I wish I did this and I wish I fixed that. And I was kind of embarrassed in a way by some of it. It was like, it wasn't good enough. But then I realised every album I do the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's the nature of the process.
There's always, that beat's wrong, that backup's not right, that's not tight enough. But now I listen back to it and I love it. Like when I put it on after about 10 years, I had to listen to it. I was just remembering all the times in the studio and the memories and performing live, and just I could feel it all, and the smells and everything. It was just takes me back to a really good time.
The lesson. Oh yeah.